I would just say, you know, labeling people evil.
I don't consider them people. If something bad happens to you because you can spit on Kirk's grave, they better get back from it before it's too late. You fuck around and find out.
Abba and Stevie Knight, two people with two different perspectives on just about everything from politics to relationships, ended up having a debate tonight centered around their Charlie Kirk videos and their perspectives about the situation.
You said we were minimizing his death by bringing up these other murders, but those deaths are part of this discussion. The same thing that led to those people being killed is the exact same thing that led to Charlie Kirk being killed.
I'm not pro, I'm not anti. I respect his stance. I don't agree with it, of course, but I respect it.
My point still 100% stands. At the end of the day, if you are going to force a 10-year-old to have a baby because you believe abortion is wrong, it's okay for people to say you're a disgusting person. You kind of said there's nothing bad about this when he said he wanted Biden to be executed or given the death penalty. You don't think that people should hate somebody like that, or some people might hate somebody for that reason?
Yeah. That's their opinion.
I'm gonna just be real. People like Stevie Knight, Anton Daniels, Hodge Twins, all of these right-leaning influencers and YouTubers, in my opinion, defending MAGA, the right, even somebody like Charlie Kirk, it feels like they're acting against their own self-interest. Because these are people at the end of the day that don't think that highly of you, but view you as useful idiots, where you can say the things that they want to say, but they probably can't say, but you can get away with it because of your skin color. And I think that was made pretty clear throughout this debate that Stevie argued against programs that help low-income families or children in need. He defended or conveniently overlooked racism and chose to be selectively outraged like we've been seeing on the right as of late. Abba really did end up washing Stevie in this debate as he came with receipts and real statistics, while Stevie spoke confidently and ignorantly most times, refusing to acknowledge any statistics or data points.
Which one is higher, the amount of abortions in America or the amount of starving children in America?
The amount of starving kids in America.
Oh, that's cap.
That's cap? Did you Google it? Did you Google it?
I don't need to Google it.
You don't need facts.
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
So let's get started. So Stevie, you watched our video and you had some critiques for it. So yeah, let me know what you think we was getting wrong in regards to how we handled this Charlie Kirk situation.
You were talking about how we need to tone it down. I don't want to say we, right? It was more like focusing on the right versus the left. Now we need to tone it down, and we're doing the same. And we're doing the same thing that the left was doing, bro.
That's 100% fact. Going all the way back to when Trayvon Martin was killed, people were making fun of him wearing hoodies, holding Skittles, blood stains on the hoodie, holding Snapples, Trayvoning laying on the ground. Like, I remember all of that very vividly. I actually have a Trayvon painting that I'll make sure I put in this video. It's right here behind the screen. Not to even mention George Floyd, who people have been dragging for the last 5 years. The right 100% celebrated when he died and wanted those cops to get off without any repercussions. So I don't think any of these things happen in a vacuum. But all of a sudden, when somebody on the right dies, when people are celebrating the same way that they did when black people died, it's this huge problem, which is really hypocritical.
Different opinion with you as far as this whole situation is that I don't think anything should be toned down if we're highlighting, if we're focusing on the right people. I feel like, you know, these people need to be held accountable, and we need to zero in on these individuals. And like the emphasis of your video was to highlight Charlie, and then you were trying to compare it to other things that may have happened that were similar. I think that's taking attention away from, you know, the elephant in the room, which is Charlie Kirk situation, which we never had a situation like this happen ever, you know, because of the social media and the fact that everyone was able to see it.
George Floyd died on camera saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And we literally saw a knee in his back, on the back of his neck, on camera, which sparked all of those protests that we saw in, what was that, 2020 at this point. So we have seen something like this on camera. And guess what? People made fun of his death and still do till this day. So you can't say we've never seen anything like this when we absolutely have. And we got to see the right's response to it. That man can't even rest in peace because they're still making up lies about how he died to this day.
It seems that you were minimizing the impact of what happened to Charlie. The left's doing this, and you're saying it's hypocritical of the right to be complaining about the same things that the left is doing, or what the right is implying that we're doing. And to me,
celebrating death isn't great, but it is 100% hypocritical for the right to all of a sudden be butthurt when somebody is celebrating death, when, again, they've done that to George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and other people of color that have been killed. But all of a sudden, they're demanding that everybody mourn the death of somebody that had horrible opinions and spread false information about black people.
That it should be about, we isolate, you know, the evil, the degenerate shit that's going on.
Was it evil or degenerate when they were making fun of George Floyd and Trayvon Trayvon Martin and Sandra Bland. Was that evil or degenerate? Did Stevie say that then?
Bring up the comparison between Charlie Kirk and everything else. It minimizes the tragedy that everyone just witnessed and like the impact it had on everyone, man. So I feel like it's deflecting from it. To me, it's minimizing, what happened.
Got you. I don't think I'm minimizing it. I disagree with that characterization for a few reasons. I think it's natural when someone dies that we try to understand why. That's why people love murder mystery. That's why people, every time someone dies, they want to know who the perpetrator is. They want to know who their motivations are, because murder is generally something that we see as incredibly heinous. And so understanding what led to that is always important.
Understanding what led to that is important, but also the context of why the response was the way it was. People felt that way because Charlie said racist things, used racist narratives and dog whistles. Not to mention, they've had to witness people of color being made fun of with zero repercussions for the past, 10, 15 years? So I think that context is definitely important to why the response was the way it was.
I'm explaining away how our society led to this moment and this man, because he wasn't murdered in a vacuum. There's a landscape and there's a lot of things that lead up to this murder. It's always important to examine these things, because if we don't understand how we got here, then we're going to be doomed to repeat it.
Well, to that point, that makes total sense what you're saying, but to me, it didn't come across that way when you voiced that in the video. It seemed like you were trying to highlight the divide between the right and the left, or whoever the instigators of it are.
The pervasive narrative that's online and that's being espoused by some of the most important people in our political, stratosphere is that violence of a political nature is solely left-wing. Okay. You said that I was interpreting what he's saying when he's talking about good versus evil. It's time for the righteous to prevail over the forces of evil. You were saying that I was making a left versus right thing, right?
I recognize that point. I said, hold up. If Matt Walsh is doing that, highlighting the left like this, that's unfair to do so. Then I went on to saying this makes the left look bad. It makes the transgenders look bad. It makes everybody affiliated to this look bad. It's like guilty by association. That's not the right thing to do. It should be a good versus evil thing.
Good versus evil is such weird terms to put this in. When they're saying good versus evil, it's just so reductive to any type of progress or conversation that could really happen. Because they're saying they're saying we are good and we are fighting evil, which is basically anybody that doesn't agree with them. If you're not MAGA, they view you as evil, which is dehumanizing. That's the same thing that they did in Germany in the 1930s. They dehumanized anybody in Germany that they did not view as Aryan descent or in their society. So they called them evil, and they said evil was corrupting their people and their culture. People in this society aren't just good or evil. Good people do bad things, bad people do good things. Nobody's just good or evil. And that's such an elementary way to look at any social issue.
Ben Shapiro said that most of the political violence today is flowing from left-wing movements and ideology. Elon Musk was on Twitter. He said, the left is the party of murder. If they won't let us live in peace, then our choice is to fight or die. If you look at the numbers, people got mad because I quoted the ADL, but there's all sorts of things from FBI statistics to different organizations who track terrorist attacks. Most of it comes from religious extremists and then right-wingers. Left-wingers at the bottom of that list.
And the federal government, DOJ, FBI, they're deleting all of those statistics, all of those reports that say that, because there's a certain narrative that needs to be painted, and those statistics don't go along with their narrative.
Since Charlie Kirk died, the right has not stopped politicizing his death. They haven't stopped using it for fuel for their attacks on the left. And so in that climate, you're asking people to not talk about left versus right, but if the left doesn't, then it just right gets to make the narrative that they're the violent ones.
It's not a left and right thing. It's an evil versus good thing. You know what I mean? And that's, it's like what you're doing is adding just, fuel to the fire to what you're saying everybody else is doing. Like you're highlighting the hypocrisy of people complaining about what the left does, essentially what the right is doing the same thing. It's not a left versus right thing. It makes everybody look bad. We need to focus on the motherfuckers actually making things horrible for everybody, the extremists, the radicals, all that.
You're saying extremists or radicals, but what are you talking about exactly? This was talking about in celebration of Charlie Kirk. So you're saying anybody that celebrated or has something negative to say about Charlie Kirk is an extremist or radical or evil in your eyes because this is the good versus evil thing?
When I'm watching the discourse, I'm looking at things in its totality. So if you spend time online, they're not talking about this as like both sides. That's not a lot of the discourse. A lot of the discourse, especially from the right, is that they're just saying essentially the left is the violent party.
But that's going to happen every time that happens. Every time someone from the left does something crazy, they're gonna highlight the left. When the right does something, they're gonna highlight the fucking right.
That's false. Anytime the right does something or somebody from the right does something, they find a way to recontextualize the situation so that it's an individual, it's a lone shooter, it's a troubled person, it is somebody that needs help or needs forgiveness. It is not the right doing something. The media makes sure that that's never the case. Meanwhile, this specific situation where one white man killed another white man and he was from a conservative family, they found a way to make it about the left and demonize the left and demonize everybody on the left.
But it should be noted that we should correct those narratives and say that these are not one-sided things. You said we were minimizing his death by bringing up these other murders, but those deaths are part of this discussion. The same thing that led to those people being killed is the exact same thing that led to Charlie Kirk being killed. And it's important to know that, because if we don't understand that, then all this is just going to happen again. You said it was different. To me, I understand that the fact that he died on camera makes it much more graphic, much more in your face. But at the end of the day, murder is murder.
The effect that it has on society is not the same. In a vacuum, it's the same. But if people were able to see that video until the end of time now.
If Kirk's not killed on camera, is this situation more or less tragic?
It's less tragic.
So dying on camera makes a murder worse?
No, not the murder worse, but the effect that has on the people is worse because everybody can see it.
Sure, I get that
It's different than watching a news report and you hear about somebody that got something, had something happen to them that was grotesque, as opposed to actually seeing it, because this people are going through trauma with this right now.
That's the effect that it has on you as an individual. But the tragedy is the same. The tragedy remains.
Disagree with you.
Okay, well, personally, I don't care. I don't care whether it happens in front of 100 people, 10 people, a school. It doesn't really matter to me. Murder is murder. People dying politically, all political violence to me that happens for political reasons are equally bad, whether they happen. That's how I feel about it.
I definitely got to disagree with Abba on that point. Any tragedy happening on camera magnifies it 100%. You know, for instance, just from the culture, we saw Nipsey Hussle get shot and die and get kicked after he was down. And I feel like that made his death significantly different. Meanwhile, we didn't really see Biggie or Pac actually get shot, bleed out, and die. So I do think seeing something on camera magnifies and burns it into the memory of everybody that sees it. But I disagree with Stevie saying that Charlie's death matters more because it was on camera. Again, I hate to keep going to this point, but George Floyd's death was on camera and people made fun of him nonstop and still do.
But that doesn't mean that we can't contextualize it with those other murders. You say it's not comparable, but I disagree.
Right.
They died for the exact same reason.
If you had related that way, trying to bring up the similarities and how you conveyed it just now, it would make more sense. But that's not at all how you conveyed it in the video.
No one's outraged by this whole thing because it happened on camera. People are outraged.
They're outraged. I'm just saying that adds more nuance. It makes it worse because of it.
Sure, but that's in the background. That's not that important.
I feel like they're arguing about two different points. Stevie is trying to say that this is magnified and more impactful because it happened on camera. Alba is basically trying to say the importance of what happened is because it happened for political reasons. So it's kind of like they're talking past each other.
Focus, though. That was my focus when I felt like you were minimizing it, bro, because that's a big reason why Kirk's death had the impact it had. It had to reach because you could actually see it.
So what's your point? Shouldn't contextualize his murder?
Well, in your video, it didn't feel like you were contextualizing. If I felt personally that you contextualized it trying to get to the root of a problem, then we wouldn't be here today.
If you don't talk about why something happened and how we got here, then all you're doing is just describing a tragedy.
Talking about why? I'm just focused on your video.
Kirk being assassinated is not the craziest thing. There's a reason why he had security. There's a reason why I think he was wearing a bulletproof vest. There's been threats on these people. So we have to take that into consideration, understand that this is not something that happened that is out of this world.
Well, I mean, I didn't receive that on mine. If I felt like you were contextualizing it, then, we're on the same wave as far as, this is what happens when, politics get off the rails. Do you feel like you manufactured a narrative on Kirk by showing those snips of him in your video?
You said I took him out of context, right?
Not even take him out of context. You put your context on it because we let it play. I put the additional clips on it.
Okay, so just for the viewer, there's a clip that we played, maybe 15 seconds of Kirk on a Jubilee panel. Christians versus, or is it right-wingers versus lefties? I don't remember what it was.
I don't know, but it was about abortion.
Okay, it was about abortion, right? So in that clip, the woman is asking him a hypothetical where he says, if your 10-year-old daughter was raped, okay, would you force her to keep the child.
Yeah.
And then Kirk says yes.
He said yes, the baby will have the baby, or my girl will have the
Okay,
child.
and then you said that we were kind of dishonest with how we did that we clipped him out of context, and then we put our own context, right?
No, I'm not saying you put your own context. You didn't put the entire context. When I see that it's trying to paint Kirk as a monster because he's going to force his 10-year-old daughter to have a child.
Right. But as somebody who's anti-abortion, that's his stance. He will force his daughter to have the child because he feels as though life is precious or whatever it is. And
if you just have that short video, it makes it seem like he's a monster. I don't care. I'm anti-abortion. She having a baby.
There's no additional context past that. That was the question that was posed, and that was his answer. So letting the video play longer won't change the context. And I got comments like that under my Charlie Kirk video as well, that I was taking his clips out of context. But for instance, another clip, he said black people were better off before civil rights. We certainly were not, because we couldn't vote. We weren't looked at as full human beings. There's no additional context that makes that statement less racist.
I think that you let the video play and gives you his reasonings why people would understand it. They may not agree with it, but they'll understand it, and they'll take a blow away from how they're initially feeling about him being a monster.
well, they'll see him still as a monster because no matter how much you explain it from a religious standpoint.
That's your opinion.
But that was my whole point. That section was about the fact that some people view him as a monster, including me. And I played clips that, to me, showcase his stances on things that I just don't agree with and I think are disgusting.
You having that short snippet, people are not going to know why he's doing it. They're just going to know he's doing it. If he gives justification of why, and he gave very clear reasons of why, that's going to make some people look at it different.
The people who are following this, or people who are even tuning into this stuff, know that Charlie is a political speaker who's incredibly Christian.
You're making that assumption because now, since Kirk has died, there are so many people that are just now learning about Kirk.
I will agree with that. There are people that definitely didn't know who Charlie Kirk was before he died. And even after he died, they had to see clips of him talking before they even understood why people reacted the way they did. So the majority of the world really didn't know who Charlie Kirk was unless you were plugged into Jubilee or his debates, or you just knew him from being friends with Trump or whatever the case.
This is a big reason why so many people don't like Kirk, because they get so many of these short reels taken out of context.
But they're not out of context.
I also agree with Abba. Those reels or clips are not out of context.
If someone says, I'm anti-abortion, I'm a Christian, we know why you don't want an abortion to happen. We don't.
In that clip you put, he didn't say he was Christian, though. He just said, she just gave an example, and he said, no, she can have a baby. He didn't say he was Christian.
This guy was all over the world, all over the news, and he was constantly
making an assumption.
No, I'm not making an assumption.
That's not true. You can't speak for everybody in the world, dog.
That's not out of context, boss.
Everybody did know who Charlie Kirk was, but his clips aren't out of context at all. They are what they are, whether people like it or not.
That's because you're probably anti-abortion. Am I right?
No, I don't know. I could care less. I respect his stance. I'm not pro, I'm not anti. I respect his stance. I don't agree with it, of course, but I respect it because he's standing on the tip.
Okay. But my point still 100% stands. At the end of the day, if you are going to force a 10-year-old to have a baby because you believe abortion is wrong, it's okay for people to say you're a disgusting person. This is another point you made, and this is one I thought was crazy. You played the other clips of Kirk. You kind of said there's nothing bad about this when he said he wanted Biden to be executed or given the death penalty. You don't think that people should hate somebody like that, or some people might hate somebody for saying violent things like that?
Yeah. That's their opinion.
He's saying this is good and evil, and you're evil if you celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, or you didn't like him, or you spoke ill of him after he passed. So you can't have it both ways.
Another point that you made, I played a second clip, and this is probably one of the wilder clips. A young man goes up to Charlie Kirk during that debate, and he says to him, hey, what do you think about school lunches for kids? And Charlie laughs him. He says, there's no starvation in America. We have an obesity problem. Nobody here is going without food. And then you agreed with him.
Yeah, there's no reason to starve in America. It's like 1% of households have like technically a hunger issue, bro, but people are not starving to death in America, bro. Motherfuckers are fat as hell.
That is the most overgeneralized statement ever, because America has an obesity problem. There aren't people starving in America. There are people from poor households, white and black, that live in poverty, that have parents that are on drugs, that are homeless, in and out of shelters every night, with children that literally depend on school breakfast and lunches. And maybe those are the only 2 times that they eat during the day. So to say that people aren't in poverty, or they aren't hungry, or they aren't starving, starving or kids aren't struggling because they don't eat before they go to school and they don't have any lunch, so they can't even focus or maintain thought throughout the day, that doesn't exist because America has an obesity problem is crazy.
And see, this is the problem I have with like people who are pro-life, and not you specifically, but people like Charlie Kirk. They're so obsessed with keeping fetuses alive, they pretend it's like this big virtue. And then when a child is born, they're like, fuck you, your parents take care of. He spent all this time being anti-abortion, but when it comes to every government initiative that's meant to protect kids and keep them good, he was always against it. And to me, it's like, what's the fucking point of keeping this fetus alive if when it comes out, you're like, yo, fuck you, kid. Even you saying there's no starvation is like so disingenuous. If you just Google it, there's like so many kids today here in America, you could look it up, the statistics, that have malnutrition, that have food scarcity, that have all these problems. It stunts their growth. It fucks them up in terms of their academic success. Some parents are dog shit. Some parents don't take care of their kids. And so that's why these school lunches happen, so that kids who go to school get a meal. But people like Charlie Kirk, and then you did the same thing, or like, oh, the parents take care of it. That's fucking stupid.
Which one is higher, the amount of abortions in America or the amount of starving children in America?
In the United States, there isn't a precise number of malnutrition children because the term encompasses various forms of poor nutrition. But nearly 14 million children, about 1 in 5, lived in food insecure homes.
The amount of starving kids in America.
Oh, that's cap.
That's cap? Did you Google it? Did you Google it?
I don't need to Google it.
You don't need facts.
Estimated 1,038,000 abortions were performed in the United States in 2024. So there are much less abortions than there are children starving in America. So Stevie is 100% wrong. And the fact that they can speak so confidently, not know what the fuck they're talking about, be wrong, lie about statistics when they do have them, to skew them, to paint a narrative, is a problem with these debates in the first place.
Problem, bro. There's so many different ways that people can eat outside of their parents. There's, bro, food stamps, churches, charities, bro. Like, there's no reason for somebody to starve.
So a little kid is supposed to go find food stamps, churches, or charity in order to eat when they're starving, instead of being able to eat for free at school as a low-income child.
So do you want a 7-year-old or 8-year-old to go to get food stamps or go to church and get food?
Their parents should go.
What if the parent doesn't want to go? What if their parent doesn't want to go?
You saw in the video I said it, bro. I'll be jealous when I see the amount of money these people have on food stamps, bro. They be running these EBTs up.
Do you agree with there's a lot of bad parents out there?
Absolutely.
Do you know that there's a lot? Hold on. Do you agree that there's a lot of parents who neglect those children?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that those kids should suffer because they have bad parents?
No.
Okay,
I don't think they should, but bad shit happens.
A lot of bad parents, a lot of poor parents, a lot of parents on drugs, a lot of parents that are sick that can't take care of themselves, let alone their children. There are a lot of circumstances that would lead a child to being hungry, to needing support from school or other places like that.
If they're going to school, I'm assuming that teachers are aware, they can see someone losing weight.
But that's what the program's for, Stevie. That's what I'm saying. The program is meant to give kids lunches at school.
No, that's not where I'm going with it. I'm talking about like teachers making calls to get, the correct parties involved to address a child, to find a potential food for them, so they can take advantage of the surplus of food that is available for people in these situations. Like, the homeless don't go hungry, bro. They can go get a meal if they want to get a meal.
You're comparing children to homeless. So you know there's shitty parents out there, okay? And you want teachers to call the shitty parents to be like, hey, be better parents. Or you want to call child services? You want to call child services? You want to put them in foster care?
So instead of having a program where kids can eat for free at school, you're dependent on a random teacher to notice that a kid is hungry or falling asleep, be able to make a call to a social worker or somebody else, to make another call to somebody else to get a kid food, instead of just having a program for people that are in need.
Like, teachers do this all the time. They'll see a child that may be neglected, and they'll make the calls or alert people to, intervene. Abortion is a far larger problem than starving children. Children don't starve in America. They may be hungry, but they don't starve. This isn't fucking people. It's not a famish going on. People are not dying because
they're not dying. But do you understand?
Like hypertension, obesity. There's much more obese kids than there are hungry kids, bro.
A lot of people would hear your stance or hear Charlie Kirk's stance and say, you guys aren't the best people because you don't seem to care about making sure that other people in society are okay, right? You guys are more focused on being capitalists and taking care of yourselves, which is okay. Do that. But if people want to look at you and say, well, you guys spread hate out there or you guys spread selfishness, I think that's okay.
I say people can say whatever the fuck they want to say. My issue with people was celebrating his death, like championing pom-pom and that shit. That's
Yeah.
the epitome of evil to me.
But they're celebrating his death because they viewed him as a piece of shit based on the things he said, like let kids starve instead of giving them school lunches.
You think it's more evil to celebrate that man's death than it is for that man to advocate for the fact that children don't get meals? But I also think it's bad that you're out there openly advocating for kids to not get meals in school because we have an obesity problem. I think that's also bad.
I agree. Stevie is over here calling people evil for how they reacted to his death. But a lot of stuff that Charlie Kirk said and some of his stances could be perceived as evil by a lot of people. And that's why I think this whole good versus evil conversation is so ridiculous, because it lacks nuance.
I mean, I don't think he should be painted as a demon for having that viewpoint.
I mean, I think it's pretty demonic to not want kids to have meals, personally. That's me.
No, bro. You're a victim to the same thing everybody else going through, just getting sucked in by these reels, dog. He's named all these different avenues, these different ways of children to receive food. You're just
hold up. How does a hungry kid get food?
If he's at school and teachers are aware of what the fuck's going on and they see a damn child coming in there looking emaciated, I don't know what teachers, but I've seen instances where teachers step in and get the correct party involved to help said children.
Stevie fucking sounds stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't want to say it like that. He sounds fucking stupid. I have young kids. My 10-year-old was starving if she wasn't eating at home. I don't know how she would get food at school if there weren't school programs. Literally depending on an overworked, underpaid teacher to identify a kid that might need food, then reach out to the right people to give food, because there are all these food programs and the surplus of food makes no fucking sense.
You don't think there's other ways for children to get food outside?
I don't know. Have you ever been a kid? You think kids just know where to get free food every day? You truly think kids know what the resources are? Like, what are we talking about, man? You said the left is more emotional, so I feel like you think the right is more logical.
Yeah, I'd agree with that take.
So you don't feel like the right engages in a lot of hysteria or a lot of emotionality?
Yeah, they do. But there's much more nuances and different ways that the left operates, man. I feel like the right gets crazy, extremist with racism and transphobia or whatnot, man. But there's just lots of spectrums to perspectives and different ways of looking at life that doesn't appear as much on the right. It's usually like, a nationalist or some white supremacist or, some anti-gay that's out here doing the utmost.
I like the way he had all those words with describing the left, but was like the right is usually just some white supremacist, nothing big. Like, dog, that's big enough. What are you talking about? Being a white supremacist is 100% driven by emotion. You feel like you're better than somebody else just based on skin color alone, and you want to put people back in their place. That is 100% driven by fear and emotion, that he is sitting here calling the other side emotional.
Do you think that traditions and values are logic based?
That's a twofold. Some of it is based on religion, but then you can apply logic to it. You know what I mean? Because it's been a tradition because something has worked for so long, right? So if it's working, we built this logic to know it works this way. We sustained the quality of life for this long. So we know based on our tradition that this thing works.
I'd fundamentally disagree with that. People have done certain things for thousands of years, from human sacrifices to all kinds of really fucked up traditions. And
I'm focusing here in America. Crazy things going on because we've opened up the gates. When you let everybody just follow their feelings and follow their heart and do what they want to do and don't apply any logic, then problems arise.
Do you think faith in religion is logical?
No.
Right, but that's what a lot of the right is driven by, no? I personally think the problem is that you're demonizing the idea of emotionality, and especially in the way that the left might express it. But I think being emotional in healthy doses is very, very good. And much of the way that the right expresses it, if done well, can also be very, very good. But this idea, you almost made it like a critique that the left is more emotional. At 358, you said, and I think you've repeated this, you said, ain't no talking to them, nothing needs to be said, they need to be controlled. The evil people who are celebrating, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, cheering. You seen that despicable shit, bro. Ain't no talking to them.
Was it despicable when people were making fun of George Floyd and Trayvon Martin? If he's not holding that same standard to the people on the right, was that evil then? If it wasn't evil then shut the fuck up, Stevie.
Because in the video, you went kind of wild. You said, hey, these people need to be exiled. You said they need to be decapitated. I was like, dang.
If something violent happened to them, if they lost their job, they lost their freedom.
I'm a disagree with you. I think people who do evil things aren't necessarily evil. I think sometimes they're hurt. I think sometimes they are in a really bad place. I do believe that people should be punished for the things that they do and they should suffer those consequences, but I don't think they're irredeemable. Labeling someone evil, I think, is a way for us to look at something and then simplify it. But the reality is that things are complex. People are complex, and the reason why they get to that place is very difficult.
I'm saying, because I ain't got time to care about why they are that they are. If you spitting evil, you saying some evil shit, you get the fuck out of here.
But there are people that say evil shit on the right all the time, that say racist shit on the right all the time. Does he have zero tolerance for those people on the right the same way he does for the people on the left? I feel like he's being super hypocritical the same way he just swept racism on the right under the rug.
Talking to you, and something bad happens to you because you fucking spit on Kirk's grave, or you up here acting like he got shot in front of a fucking memorial.
I agree. I would just say, you know, labeling people evil is just a blanket term to be able to just cut off any kind of sense of personhood in there. And like I said,
I don't consider them people. So
that's crazy. You don't consider human beings people because they celebrated something that you don't agree with. And that's the same thing that the Nazis did in Germany. They dehumanized people, and it justified how they dealt with.
Stay over there.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with the idea that there's no talking to them. There's plenty of people who've talked away from extremism. It happens all the time.
I'd expect the KKK to be that way, but the flooding of just random people out here saying the most sadistic shit, like I've never seen anything. Like, what would you compare this situation to?
So it's okay when racist people are racist, but anybody else that responds to what they view as racism is evil and wrong. Stevie is lost. Bro is in this sunken place, like way too far down to ever be saved.
There's nothing to compare it to. Bro.
Compare what? What and what?
Like the response, the demonic,
Trayvon Martin,
evil responses
George
people have
Floyd.
had to it, shitting on his grave, cussing him out, fuck Kirk and his mom and his
bro. I was on social media enough to see shit, man. Like a couple days after Trayvon Martin was dead, motherfuckers had a trend that went viral for to say that it's called Trayvoning. They would say there and lay in the exact same position as how he was killed. They did the same thing with George Floyd. Remember after he died, a motherfucker sat on the floor while someone had their neck, and they would take these pictures. Look it up. I didn't even make it up. You can find these things. There's so many examples of people,
selective outrage,
people dying because they didn't like them and they didn't like what they stood for. That happens all the time, and these aren't even political people.
Selective outrage. Stevie is practicing selective outrage right now, where he can be upset at the thing he wants to be upset and call people evil. But other people who have had to live through the Trayvon and then the George Floyd jokes can't be upset, or if they're upset, they're evil for their response to somebody that they feel is racist. It's hypocrisy at its finest.
Yeah, there's no talking to them, bro. There's no talking to any of these extremists, these evil motherfuckers out of their frame of mind until they take their own journey to do it.
It's saying that there's no way to talk people out of forms of extremism.
Yeah, there is a way. There's a way. I'm just saying I'm not signing up for it. You can. I'm not.
Okay.
I feel like that was a really good debate and clearly two different sides of the political spectrum. I didn't agree with too much that Stevie said at all, and I feel like a lot of his points really highlighted how people view conservatives in general. Very selfish, very capitalist-driven, willing to let the world burn, the society burn, as long as they get theirs. Very self-centered. Again, they can feel away, but nobody else can feel away. I feel like this was probably a bad look for Stevie, and Abba really didn't go as hard as he could have gone to make a lot of the points that he made at the end earlier. But at the end of the day, still a good debate and discussion, I think. But y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.